to our read aloud for today. Today we get to enjoy a story called Chrysanthemum. As we're reading, we'll work on a few different things. We'll be working on a variety of strategies to help us decode. Hopefully you just watched our decoding video. If you haven't, you can watch that when we're done. But it introduces all these characters that help us remember some of our strategies for decoding. We won't use them all today in our book, but we'll start introducing them and working on them more and more together as a group. We'll also make some connections with Chrysanthemum in our own lives as we're reading. This is a story by Kevin Henkes, and a lot of the stories we'll read this week are by him. He writes fun fantasy stories, usually about mice acting like people. The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. "She's perfect," said her mother. "Absolutely," said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. Now, if I had been reading and came to this word, maybe I don't know this one, but I notice it has the est ending. Our endings eagle. Remember, if we have this bookmark, they can help us out as we're reading. I see an est ending. I can cover that up. I see, oh, it's really close to the sight word happy. I just switched around one letter, changed the Y to an I. So happy, est, happiest. Looking for those endings can help us figure out words. But right now we're learning also about how Chrysanthemum has made her family so happy by being born. "Her name must be everything she is," said her mother. "Her name must be absolutely perfect," said her father. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew. And when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written with ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect. And then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile. She ran all the way. "Hooray!" said Chrysanthemum. "School!" But when Mrs. Chudd took roll call, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. See, lots of these other names are shorter. Chrysanthemum's got a long one that's a little bit different than anyone else's. "It's so long," said Joe. "It scarcely fits on your name tag," said Rita, pointing. "I'm named after my—" This one's a big word. If I chunk it up, I recognize that "and" part. Grand. Oh, and that's a sight word. Mother. Grandmother. That was our chunky monkey. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "You're named after a flower." Now stop and think to yourself about how that might be making Chrysanthemum feel. I have here a picture of Chrysanthemum. Every time somebody says something not very nice about her, it crumples her feelings a little bit. Now you also have a picture of Chrysanthemum. Please don't crumple yours. I'll crumple this one. Keep yours nice. We're going to see how crumpled this paper ends up, or how it changes over time as we're reading our story. Chrysanthemum wilted. That's how we often describe a flower that's starting to kind of fall down. She's so sad. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chudd that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. "That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet," Victoria explained. "Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria," said Mrs. Chudd. "Now put your head down." "If I had a name like yours, I'd change it," Victoria said. Imagine somebody telling you to change your name. Oh, that would really crumple your feelings. Oh, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. I wish I could, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Now she wishes she could change the name she used to love. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. But her feelings are kind of feeling crushed and crumpled like this. My name is too long. It scarcely fits on my name tag, and I'm named after a flower. Oh, pish. That means, oh, ignore that, said her mother. Your name is beautiful, and precious, and priceless, and fascinating, and winsome, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. Absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. Now what her family's done is take her feelings, start to make them feel uncrumpled. Look how she's feeling so much better based on what they did. Kind words, giving her something that was her favorite. But you notice the little crumple still stays there from the hurt of what the kids said. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was something very short and different. Has a magic E. Her vowel owl says to make that jump back. Make the A say its name. Jane. Jane. She dreamed that her name was Jane. It was an extremely pleasant dream. She wanted something shorter and simpler, like a lot of the other kids. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, 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 she wrote. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe. What do you think is happening to Chrysanthemum's feelings again? It started to be feeling better. Now they're crumpling again. Now you can't actually see this happening in real life. You can't see how a person's feelings crumple inside. But that's really what's happening on the inside. She's starting to feel that crumpled feeling again. That her name isn't as good. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, A chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dirty things. Imagine being compared to other dirty things. Her chrysanthemum even more crumpled. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your head down. I just cannot believe your name, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. Neither can I, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. They said I even look like a flower. They pretended to pick me and smell me. Oh, pish, said her mother. They're just jealous, and envious, and begrudging, and discontented, and jaundiced, said her father. All words that mean you can ignore them. They just have other feelings that are making them feel like they need to pick on you. Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours? Said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle. I'm not sure about that word. This is a perfect time for our Flippy Dolphin. Remember Flippy Dolphin sometimes says the vowel can say its name even when we don't expect it to. Trifle. Trifle means just a little bit. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better. So here, these feelings are starting to uncrumple a little, but she's still more crumpled than she started. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals, Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of Chrysanthemum's life. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and her good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. Chrysanthemum, 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 the flowers seemed to say. Notice she's really trying to delay getting to school. She's not very eager to get there anymore. That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. Then she assigned roles for the class musicale. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess. Jo was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger, and Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy, another kind of flower. Chrysanthemum's a daisy, chrysanthemum's a daisy. Ooh, that would be a big crumple. Jo, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. What's so humorous? Asked Mrs. Twinkle. Chrysanthemum was the answer. Her name is so long, said Jo. It scarcely fits on her name tag, said Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. She's named after a flower. Bring it all again as if to crumple poor Chrysanthemum even more. My name is long, said Mrs. Twinkle. It is, said Jo. My name would scarcely fit on a name tag, said Mrs. Twinkle. It would, said Rita, pointing. And, said Mrs. Twinkle, I'm named after a flower, too. You are? said Victoria. Yes, said Mrs. Twinkle. My name is Delphinium. Delphinium Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. I think it's absolutely perfect. Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She blushed, she beamed, she bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Now, with what Mrs. Twinkle has said, she is starting to have her feelings uncrumpled again, starting to feel good about herself, seeing that she can have a name that's special just like Mrs. Twinkle. Jo, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. Call me Marigold, said Jo. I'm Carnation, said Rita, pointing. My name is Lily of the Valley, said Victoria. They're all picking flower names, too. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. So the reason I wanted to read this story was to practice some of our reading strategies, but you notice we just practiced those on a few words. I really wanted to read this to talk about how we should treat others. You guys did an awesome job in our first teams meetings, but I want to make sure we're continuing that, continuing to pick kind words. If you look at my piece of paper compared to yours, mine's still more crumpled. Even though it's gotten flattened out by people helping her, when we say mean things, it's hard to take them back, hard to make up for them. It's important to think about what we say before we say it. Try to pick kind words as much as we can. Now, if we do make a mistake and say something unkind, then we should definitely try to smooth it back out, try to help someone feel better. But really thinking about how we can make the best choices, be as kind to our friends as we can. To anybody we meet, trying to be as kind as we can. So today, thumbs up, we used our strategies, and we got to talk about how Chrysanthemum, we can learn from her story, how to treat others as kindly as we can. You get to color Chrysanthemum, your nice, not crumpled copy, and write about something you can do to be kind to others. Have a great rest of your day.